Welcome back to another session of fluid mechanics and rate processes. Today we are going to continue our discussions on flow analysis. So, let me summarize for you where we are at this point in time. So, the idea is to do flow analysis, and as you are aware, we have been looking at two approaches, an integral approach and then a differential approach. The integral approach, it involves using the Reynolds transport theorem. So, we take a control volume, we account for what is coming into the control volume, what is leaving the control volume, and then by keeping track of the things that change in terms of the generation, the growth rate, we are able to do a balance, and that gives us the integral formulation. In terms of the differential formulation, we look at an infinitesimal control element, and then we look at the infinitesimal changes that take place inside and perform a balance law on that. So far what we have been able to do is, for example, the mass balance. So, for the mass balance, if you remember, we did the Reynolds transport theorem, and we also did a differential analysis which led to what is known as the continuity equation. The continuity equation, if you remember, was given as something like this. So, we said del rho by del t plus divergence of rho v is 0. And then we said that if you have an incompressible fluid or an incompressible flow, that leads to d rho dt, the substantial derivative 0, and in turn if you simplify this equation, then you get divergence of v equal to 0. So, that is the mass balance. Next we came to momentum balance or the force balance. Okay. So, we have already done in the last class the integral analysis for that, and this is what we want to do today, that how to come up with a differential form of this balance law, the momentum equation. So, let us start, and what I plan to do is I will restrict our analysis in 2 dimensions. So, let us talk about let us say the flow is in a 2-dimensional plane, and then we are going to look at these results, and perhaps we are going to generalize them and learn how they apply to 3-dimensional flows. Okay, this would be a little bit easier, so the math does not get out of hand. Okay, so what I want to do is draw for you a control element. So, we will consider an infinitesimal fluid element. So, this has, as expected, a length dx in the x direction, a length dy in the y direction, and before I forget, let me draw the flow axis x and y. Okay. Now, this is something like the center of gravity of the element, and I can now write down the Newton's second law I can apply to this element. So, what does it tell me? It says that if I look at dm, which is the mass of infinitesimal element times the acceleration, so that would be, I could write it as dv dt. This should be equal to the force that acts on this element. So, because it is an infinitesimal element, so this is the external force. And as we had agreed upon earlier, this has two components. So, there is a dF surface and a dF body force. Okay. So, let me first kind of tell you what is dm. So, dm I can work out from the geometry here. So, this is the volume. So, this would be rho times the dV of this fluid element, and this is rho times dx dy, and I am going to consider that this element has a unit depth in the x direction. So, maybe I write it here that it has a unit depth in the z direction. So, inside the or outside the plane of the blackboard, actually z is pointing outwards. So, I would take a unit depth. Okay. So, that is what the mass of this infinitesimal element is. Okay. I am going to assume that rho, because this is very small, the element is very small, so the properties do not really change much, and I will assume that rho is virtually constant inside. I could take changes in rho as well, and then I could take the limit of dx and dy going to 0, they would appear as higher order terms, but let me stay with this. Okay, so that is dm. I already know what is dv dt, because I already know what is the velocity field here. So, v is given as vx, it is a function of x, y and t I plus vy x, y, t, j. So, all along the flow is varying. I mean, I would see a velocity field that varies at different points in the flow, and even at a given point it is allowed to change with time. Okay. So, that is a given. All right. So, now I have a hang of what is happening on the left hand side. Let me now talk about the right hand side. So, the surface force, we are going to use this. So, this will be in terms of stress. We had talked about stress in one of the earlier lectures. I am going to review that for you very briefly, and then we will work it out. But the easier part is the body force. So, the body force on this infinitesimal element is essentially the force that I would get per unit volume. So, this would then be something like rho times dx dy times 1. So, that is the mass, and I would multiply this with the body force Fb. So, Fb is actually the body force per unit mass of fluid. An example of that would be the weight of the fluid. So, obviously, if I wanted to get the weight of the fluid, then this Fb would be g, the acceleration due to gravity, with of course the correct vectorial direction. This Fb, I could further write it as Fbx I plus Fby j. Okay? And as I just mentioned, that if I want to look at gravity, then Fby, for example, could be gravity. Okay. So, for example, Fby equal to minus g for the acceleration due to gravity. But we leave it very general. Very nice. So, if I can actually get hold of what happens to my surface forces, then I should be able to complete this equation. So, let me call this as equation 1. We will come back and refer to it. Okay, the next thing is what about this stress? How can I get the surface force? So, we will assume that the center of the element, let me call it as C. So, C is at x, y. Okay? And let me further say that the state of stress, so this is new text that I am putting in. So, the state of stress at C, the point C, is, let us say, given by tau of x, y. I have already shown you what this looks like. So, if I had to do this in 2 dimensions, it would be a 2 by 2 matrix. So, there would be terms like tau xx, tau xy, tau yx, and tau yy. These terms, the diagonal terms, I would like to recall for you, these are normal stresses, and the off diagonal terms are shear stresses. So, tau xx and tau yy, they are normal stresses, and tau xy, which actually is equal to tau yx, because this is symmetric, that is a shear stress. So, if you have forgotten what these indices mean, this is a second order tensor, and we said the first of the 2 directions, it refers to the face of the element, and the second one actually refers to the direction of the stress itself. So, let me try to mark them here, and you will see in your book, for example, or many other texts, the normal stresses, they are usually referred to as sigma. Okay, so, they are referred to as sigma xx and sigma yy. So, really, if I had to rewrite this tau, I could also write this as the following. I could write this as sigma xx, sigma yy, tau xy, and tau yx. So, they are the same thing. We just make a distinction between shear being denoted by the symbol tau and the normal stresses denoted by the symbol sigma. Okay, they are just symbols, so no big deal. How do I mark them on this figure? So, let us start with the face, the positive x face. This is the positive x face. So, there would be a force because of a stress in this direction, and there would be a force because of the stress. So, positive x face, y direction, positive x face, x direction. We are going to call this as sigma xx, and this is tau x phase y direction, right? But there is a small catch. I said the state of stress is defined as tau xy and sigma xx at the point C, but now I am drawing them at a point which is a little bit away. So, we are going to use Taylor series expansion. So, I am going to write this as sigma xx plus del sigma xx by del x dx by 2. Similarly, the tau xy is going to be tau xy plus del tau xy by del x, and this is dx by 2. Okay, so, that is the stress that I would see on this face. Of course, you could argue that both my x and y coordinates change along this face. So, why am I not taking that into account? I can. Okay. I can take second order effects, that there is a, this is tau x, there is a value tau xy here or sigma xx here. At this point the value is sigma xx plus this, and then as I move down I could have a change in value, and then I could integrate it over the the face. I could do that. But for us this analysis would suffice, because we are assuming that there is some kind of a constant stress on each face. Just to make our analysis simple, if we did it the long way, we would get exactly the same answer. What about this? So now I am talking about a negative x face. So notice the sign convention is that my force is now along the negative x direction, and this quantity would be now sigma xx minus del sigma xx by del x dx by 2. And just to make a distinction, so this is the shear stress on this face, and that is going to be given as tau xy, but that would be at the center. So I would have to write the Taylor series term for this, which is del tau xy by del x dx by 2. Okay. So that is the state of stress on this face, and I could do the same thing on the vertical faces. So let me try to help you with that. So the stress is here. So first the positive face, so I would have something like this, okay, and on this face maybe I would have something like this. So I am just choosing some arbitrary colors so that you know you can relate to the arrow the force that I write. Okay, so the stress, the shear stress on the upper face would be given as tau, and now I am talking about the y face. So this is y, but in the x direction. Tau yx was the value at point C, so I would have to correct it with del tau yx by del y and dy by 2. Let me make some space here and erase this quantity over here, and the normal stress here would be essentially this would be, you know, the y face and the y direction. So we are talking about sigma yy plus a correction to it because we have moved in the positive y direction. So that would be del sigma yy by del y and dy by 2. All right. Likewise, I could write the stresses here. So let me finish writing that, and then we can try to do a balance. So I'll write the normal in the green color. So this would be sigma yy minus del sigma yy by del y dy by 2, and this shear here is tau yx minus del tau yx by del y dy by 2. Great. So we are all set. Okay. So next what we want to do is, let me draw your attention to equation 1. So we said that the mass times acceleration of this fluid element is equal to the net external force. So there is a body force which I have already written down here, and now I am supposed to find out what is the net surface force because of this state of stress on this element. Okay, so let's get down to estimating that. So net surface force. So first I try to compute dfx. Okay, so the force is along the x. You can see that there is a force in the x direction because of sigma xx on the two faces, and also because of tau yx and on these two faces. So all I have to do is just multiply this face by the area here. Okay, so let us write that down. So because of this sigma xx, so that would be the sigma xx plus del sigma xx by del x and dx by 2, and I need to multiply this with the area. So if I number them A, B, C, D, so I am really talking about the area of the face BC, and the area of the face BC is dy times a unit depth, which is 1. So I would multiply this with dy times 1. Okay. I can now do the area because of this, the stress on this face, which is AD, and you can see it would be minus because now it is in the negative direction. So this would be sigma xx minus del sigma xx by del x dx by 2, and the area of that face is again the face of AD is the vertical length is dy times a unit depth, so that is 1. I now need to account for this green stress over here, tau yx, and this number here, and then the red one which is written over here. So let me complete that. So plus I have tau yx plus del tau yx by del y dy by 2, and this time I need to multiply it with the area of the face CD. So that would be this distance dx times a unit depth, which is 1. So I am going to put here dx times 1. And then finally this guy over here, okay, which is tau yx minus del tau yx by del y dy by 2 dx times 1. So now I am ready to estimate what is the net force in the x direction because of the surface stresses. Okay. So let us see if we can strike out some terms. As you can see, there is a sigma xx here and a minus sigma x, so I will just cross them out. Similarly, I have a tau yx here and a negative tau yx, so I cross them out. Okay. And if I simplify this further, so these two will add up, and there is a dx by 2, so that adds up to a 1. So I write this as delta sigma xx by del x dx dy. So that's the sum of these two terms, and for the next I get plus del tau yx by del y dx dy. Okay. Great. Now I need to do the same thing for the y direction. So I'll just write down the result for you, and then we'll go ahead and look at it in totality. So let me erase this. So dfx, rather d body, d surface x is going to be given as, I just take that down over here, del sigma xx by del x plus del tau yx y dy dx dy. Similarly, you can work it out. If I try to find out the surface force in the y direction, that is going to be given as, in fact you can see it very roughly, that in the y direction I am going to get a combination of these two terms, sigma yy terms, and then likewise I am going to get these two terms which are coming out of you can see tau xy and tau xy over here. So I'll just write that down for you, del tau xy by del x plus del sigma yy del y dx dy. Great. Now I go back to equation 1. So equation 1, what it tells me is I am going to substitute for dm as simply rho dx dy. So rho dx dy times of course dv dt. This now is equal to the surface force, and these are my surface forces. Okay. So I can write down here df surface, and then I have the body forces, which of course I have written down over there, which is simply rho dx dy times this fbx and fby. And this is what my surface forces are in the x and y direction. So let me first write down the x1, the x equation, and the y equation. So you will notice all of them have these terms dx, dy. So I will get rid of them. So the first equation I get is rho dv dt. This is the surface force in the x direction, so that would be simply del sigma xx by del x plus del tau yx by del y plus rho fbx. Okay, so that's my x equation, and my y equation is rho. I'm sorry, I had to, this doesn't stay as a vector, so this becomes dvx. Okay. So I made an error here, I left it as a vector equation. Indeed, I should take the vx component out of this. Now for the y equation, I get here dvy by dt. And now I would have to substitute the y direction from the surface force, which is over here. So that's del tau xy by del x plus del sigma yy by del y and rho f dy. Let me call this as 2 and this as 3. This is the differential form of the force balance equation, okay, where I have been able to say that the acceleration of a fluid particle is related to the net stress that acts on a certain fluid element and the body force. Okay. Now what is the problem here? I think we need to understand what the unknowns are and how many equations we have. So let's do a small calculation. So unknowns. If I look at equations 2 and 3, I can safely assume that because I am dealing with, let's say, an incompressible flow. So I'll first deal with an incompressible flow. So I will assume that the fluid elements have a certain density, and that density is maintained as the fluid gets convected. So rho is something which is given to me. So my unknowns are, of course, Vx and Vy, and I am only talking about in 2 dimensions. So, we will keep that in mind. So, Vx and Vy are certainly unknowns, and then I have these sigma xx, sigma yy, and tau xy, which is actually equal to tau yx. So, I will count this as only one unknown. So, we are talking about 5 unknowns. How many equations do we have? Well, we had one continuity equation, and let me recall that for you. That is simply del Vx by del x plus del Vy by del y 0. So, that is from the mass balance. So, that is one equation that we have already we have it in our kitty. And then we have these equations 2 and 3. These are the force balance equations. So, overall we have 3 equations. 3 equations, 5 unknowns. Right? There is a problem. So, there is a problem of closure. If I have more unknowns than my number of equations, well, I cannot really complete the analysis. So, what I now need to do is come up with a way, possibly, to see if I can simplify these stress terms and maybe write them in terms of the velocities. Okay? So, let us try to do that. So, now we are going to use what we call as the constitutive models. Okay? So, we are going to use the constitutive model for a Newtonian fluid. Hopefully, you will be able to appreciate that why do we make these models and how do they help us. So, if you please recall that for an incompressible fluid, the Newtonian model is the following. It says that my state of stress is given as minus Pi plus mu times gradient of V plus gradient of V transpose. Okay. If you had a compressible fluid, there would be some other terms, but that is not really in the scope of this course. So, I am restricting our discussion to just incompressible fluids. So, if you look at in 2D, what we are saying is that if this is your matrix, the stress matrix is sigma xx, tau xy, tau yx, sigma yy, then this is given as the following. So, there is minus p at the diagonals. This does not contribute to the off diagonal terms, and here I am going to get plus twice mu del Vx by del x, and this would be plus twice mu del Vy by del y. And here in the off diagonal term, I would get mu del Vx by del y plus del Vy by del x. And this would actually be the same term because it is symmetric. So, let me just repeat it, del Vx by del y plus del Vy by del x. So, now this is an additional information that we have, which is the relationship between the stress and the strain rate. Recall in an earlier class we said from the kinematics that if I look at the gradient of the velocity, I could split it into two parts. A symmetric part which was related to the strain rate, okay, with some factors, and a skew symmetric part which was related to vorticity, which is the rotation of an element about its own axis. So, we are saying that for a Newtonian fluid, the stress is related to the symmetric part of the velocity gradient, which is the strain rate, times a coefficient of viscosity. So, stress is proportional to strain rate, and of course, a contribution from the hydrostatic pressure P, and which of course acts only in a direction normal to a surface. So, you would see it coming only in the diagonal terms. And now suddenly things start making sense. If you recall, in 2 dimensions I had 5 unknowns and 3 equations. It was not solvable. But now what I have done is I have actually introduced some more relationships, but then I have added another unknown called the pressure. So, let us see if this works out. So, we are going to use these definitions of sigma and tau and plug it into these equations 2 and 3 and see if everything works out. So, let us do that. So, let me call this as equation 4 and maybe this as equation 5. Great. So, let us start with the x equation. So, first we will look at the x momentum equation. That means we are going to let me rewrite that. So, rho d Vx by dt, this is del by del x of sigma xx plus del by del y of tau yx plus rho f body in the x direction. So, this is my equation 2. I am now going to plug in for sigma xx and tau yx. So, this is sigma xx and this is tau yx. All right. So, sigma xx is minus p plus twice mu del Vx by del x, and del by del y of tau yx is simply mu times del Vx by del y plus del, so maybe I put a bigger bracket here, plus del Vy del x, and of course a rho f bx. Okay. So, let me simplify these terms here. So, this I get minus del p by del x, and then I get this term here plus twice mu del square Vx by del x square. This term would give me, so I am now going to assume that my viscosity is not changing with x and y just for simplification, and I am going to pull this outside the derivative. So, this term that I get now is mu times del square Vx by del y square plus, plus mu times del square Vy by del Vx and del x del y, and the force term. What I am going to do is split this into 2 terms and try to combine it with over here. So, let me rewrite these 3 terms in the following way. So, I will keep 1 mu. So, first I will take mu outside. So, the first set of term I write is del square Vx by del x square. So, I take one of them, and I take del square Vx by del y square. So I'm done with this term, and then I'm going to play a small trick, and I'm going to write down del by del x of del Vx by del x from over here, and from this guy I get del Vy by del y. So that's just these terms, the viscous terms. Okay. Do you remember what this term is? Recall, this is divergence of V, and this is 0 for incompressible flows. This is my continuity equation. So therefore, this term actually vanishes. Okay? And then what I get is my final equation as rho dVx by dt plus this is minus del p del x plus mu. I get this term over here, and I can write this as the Laplacian of Vx and the rho f bx. So this is my x momentum equation for a Newtonian fluid. Okay. So I've got the acceleration term, I have a pressure gradient term, and then I have a term which has a coefficient of viscosity in it, but that's a Laplacian term. So I'm calling this as the Laplacian. And then of course I have the body force. I can now try to do the same thing for the y momentum equation. So I request that you please do this on your own. It's very easy to work it out, but I am going to give you the final result. So the y momentum equation is going to be rho dVy by dt. So this is the total derivative of the y velocity, and this would be minus del p del y, just like I had del p del x here, plus a term mu times Laplacian of Vy plus a term rho f b, but this time in the y direction. Okay. So we have been able to write the x and y momentum equations now in terms of velocities, and we have introduced a quantity called pressure as opposed to we were using earlier stresses, the shear stress and the normal stress. So let's go back and do the count. Okay, that do we have number of unknowns and number of equations to be same, and do we now have a closure problems? So let's see the unknowns. Now my unknowns are, so rho, as I said, is something that is known to me because I am dealing with an incompressible flow. Vx, Vy remain as they are. I have been able to get rid of the stresses, but I have introduced something called a pressure. So my unknowns now are Vx, Vy and a pressure. What about the equations? So I have three scalar unknowns. If I look at vector, then I have one vector unknown and one scalar unknown. So I'll stay with scalar unknowns. In terms of equations, I have an equation for the continuity, so that's one, and I have the x momentum equation, that's another one, and I have a y momentum equation, which is another one. So three. Great. So we have 3 unknowns, 3 equations, and for the first time now we should be able to do an analysis for a flow. Okay. So given the body forces Fbx, Fby, given a density field of the fluid to begin with, and if you had an initial condition and of course the boundary conditions, then in principle you could actually solve these equations and get the flow. Brilliant. I want to say a few things about these equations, but before I do that, let me just say that these equations are called the Navier-Stokes equations. So let me write that down for you. So let me write down the vector form of the equations. So V is the velocity vector, P is the pressure, and Fb is my body force. And I could write down the equation as the following: rho dV dt. This is the total derivative of the velocity, so that is the acceleration. This is given as minus gradient of P. So this becomes the derivative of P with respect to x for the x momentum equation, the partial derivative with y for the y momentum equation, and so on. And then I have a term for the viscous forces, so that is mu, and it is a Laplacian of the velocity vector, plus I have rho Fb. These equations are known as the Navier-Stokes equations. And I have written them for incompressible fluid. For a compressible fluid, there will be a few more terms. Okay, there will be an additional term, but that is beyond the scope of this course. If you need to look at that, you can do that later. Okay, we will stop here, and in tomorrow's lecture or in the next lecture, we are going to look at some of the properties of these equations and look at it in a little bit more detail. Thank you very much.